All right, guys. Well, this is our next project for the day. It's a broken Kelly bar off of these drill rigs. This one goes off a smaller unit, a 1000 size. This was repaired before by yours truly, but it broke. So it is what it is. This looks kind of weird. It looks like maybe the rollers or something goes really hard on that one particular spot. Maybe that's why it tends to break there. But either way, it should be a pretty straightforward repair. I'm gonna have to cut back here a little bit and hopefully they can afford to lose a little bit, and then you know, kind of get to some decently good material. But for some reason this really dives down here. There may be a lot of force in this general area, but you can see on the inside there, I think you can. Ooh. I don't have my camera on me this time. I don't even have a flashlight. Yeah, I did. There you go. And I had some good weld penetration, so that wasn't an issue. Just finally broke. But I think we're gonna get beat up by these clouds, so I don't know if I'll get to it this afternoon, or this morning I should say. Rain's already coming down. Okay, well let's see what we do. I'll probably start marking it out at least before the rain gets here, and then maybe start this tomorrow. I don't know. All right, so I went ahead and marked it out where we needed to. Turns out what's happening is that compared to the end of the unit, or the end of the bar over there to here, is where the rollers are to do the twisting at full depth. So it's always going to have that same stresses right on top of this brake, no matter what. We don't have enough Kelly bar to kind of shift the line over, the stress line over. So it's just going to be one of those things as it is what it is. And so that's why it looks like it's kind of twisted in this area. So we're going to go ahead and cut back at least a couple inches each side and get some clean material, and then just glue it back together again. So got the torch out, going to go ahead and start cutting it. All right, so not bad after giving it some rough cuts. It looks a little wonky there, but it's pretty close right there. And right there is pretty close. I did have a little bit of an additional bevel started. I'll just have to keep that in mind. This side's a little bit off also, but you know, I can square them up a little bit better here and there, and start beveling. Let me clean these up, get them a little bit straighter, then I'll start the bevel process. Okay, well I must say that is not pretty at all, but we got general bevels in there. Right, we can clean that up a little bit here and there afterwards. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that with a grinder and then just see how well they match up. And you know, I'm actually gonna want about 1/8 of an inch or maybe 3/32 of a gap between this one and this one, that we can have a nice root pass. So as I get them closer, I'll see what needs more gap or not, and I can just cut it with a cutoff wheel and trim it and make sure it fits. So you'll see. Let me clean that up and hopefully look a little bit better than that. All right, so I got it as close as I could get it. That's a pretty decent little bevel there. It's got about 1/8 of an inch gap all the way around. Pretty nice gap. I did notice, if you can see in there, there's a bunch of furries, which tells me this guy is magnetized. Still a little warm, not too bad. But I will need to preheat it some more. I got it as straight as I could. From this point here, there's another repair right in this area. It seems to get a natural twist, which kind of stinks. But as far as I'm concerned with my section, it is as straight can get, other than way over there. Let's see it there. So I think Jimmy DeResta once said, if it looks straight, it is straight. So, or maybe it was Scott, I'm not quite sure. But either way, this is about as straight as I can get it. I used a flat edge. Where'd it go? I used a straight edge on it, and these ends are just so wore out that it's hard to get a good measurement, because even the thickness changes. So you can't really put a straight edge on it. You just gotta eyeball it with your good eye. So this is where we're at. I'm gonna put some tacks obviously in the corners, try to hold it in place. Some pretty decent tacks to keep it from moving, and then we'll just get after it and start welding. I may end up using the Fluxcore all the way out, because again, it's magnetized, and stick welding magnetized items is no fun for anyone, especially with 7018s. So we'll give that a shot after lunch here. It turns out the rain did pass us over, so we kept moving, which is good. And so we'll be back after a blink. Okay, let's get after it. Okay, without wasting too much time, you can see I'm keyholing all the way up, which is a good thing. That way I know I'm getting good root penetration. I do have some situations where the wire goes through, but get some cat whiskers on the inside, but that's fine, it doesn't matter. So I gotta keep moving so it doesn't warp too bad, and at least put one pass all the way around. I don't know if you can see that so well, but it's coming out all right. All right, still looking good. Just gotta keep going. I don't wanna, oh, where'd it go? I don't wanna let it cool too much. Okay, you gotta keep going while it's hot. All right, last pass. I may have messed up on the bottom because I may have made it too flush. That's I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's very dark on here. So I got one pass left on all the way around. Hope I don't screw it up. But if not, there's a grinder, right? That's what the grinder's for. So hopefully we can make it look semi-decent. I think I'm gonna go ahead and I don't want to put another pass under it, but I have to. It's less than a 30-second. I could blend it in. I'll see. But let me do this one here first, this vertical. All right, well that looks like it'll do it. Big old tractor weld, probably about 3/4 inch wide or so. 7/8 wide. A lot of people don't like weaves, and I don't know if it's because they can't do it or they say stringers are best. Well, pretend there's stringers right next to each other, just 1 inch long stringers. Let me see. Yeah, it came out pretty good. I think I'm gonna leave it alone without actually grinding it down at all. This side came out pretty good. I guess you can't really see that, but no real. I got a really low. They're pretty flush. Let me see. Can you see that? Pretty consistent. So it came out really good. And see how straight it is. I got my. Oh, it's still straight. Got my hood on there, but it looks good. Looks good for my house. Won't be able to see it when it's installed. Anyway, hope you guys learned something from it. I ended up using, oh, before you guys ask, I used 045 Hobart Fabshield 21B wire. And I don't know exactly the settings, roughly around 21, 22 volts. Thing is, I was using my whole 100 and some foot on the positive side because I have a shorter cable for when I'm near the truck. But this is the longer one, so you have to kind of adjust for that. Compensate for the voltage drop, so it's kind of a feel. And I think I have my wire 125 range or so, something like that. I had it a little higher a bit earlier, so I could really get in there and pour some wire in there, but towards the end you just want a nice little cap. You don't want so much wire that you can't handle. Yeah, right. So all right, well, thanks for watching. I'm glad this one worked out, and I guess we'll just catch you guys on the next one. And you know, hit the subscribe and like and all that baloney, that stuff, if you don't mind. It truly helps. All right, thanks a lot. See you guys.